Lesson two, having a growth mindset. Let me ask you something. Why do you think this particular module starts with a lesson on growth mindset? Why am I even talking about it? Why am I even talking about it? Well, I got to tell you, I've had personal experience with this. And the more I try to have empathy and the more I try to push to where the economy is going, and the more I try to work with others and explore their perspective, the more I realize what I don't know. And one of the things that's really easy in business is to beat ourselves up for what we don't know. And one of the things that I wanted to impress upon you is we can continue to go through what we've always done. The real challenge of today is not justifying what we already know. Let me say that again. I believe it's not about justifying what we already know. Personally, I've come to realize that what got me here is not going to get me there. The economy is fundamentally different. If I believe that everything I've learned has prepared me for the future and I stop learning, then there is no growth. And if you want to change your situation or make a different impact or create a function or build something together, if you want to do something you've never had or have, if you want something you've never had, you've got to do something you've never done. Thomas Jefferson said that. And Carol Dweck, who wrote the book Growth Mindset or Mindset, she talks about the greatest threat to success is actually avoiding failure. The greatest threat to success is avoiding failure. And I think in business, we're wired to be risk averse and we're wired to avoid failure. We're not wired to figure out how to grow and put ourselves out there. In fact, those who do are oftentimes brought back down. It's a really interesting phenomenon. So your mindset is absolutely critical. You're going to take a lot of arrows as you push the envelope to orchestrate change. What I'll encourage you to do is find people who think like you and who are positive and be intentional about protecting your mindset. It's critical. And this is the attribute number 4. It has to do with unlocking energy and creating momentum. Without a growth mindset, you do neither of those things. You do not unlock energy and you do not create momentum without a growth mindset and staying positive. What is mindset? What is mindset? How would you answer that? Pause the video. Jot down. What is mindset? Pause the video and answer that question before you continue. All right, welcome back. Mindset is, to me, is the view you have about your own ability and why you're here. It's a perception that affects how you handle mistakes and criticism, and also how you perceive challenges. Perception is not necessarily reality all the time. But when it comes to how we approach challenges and opportunities, our mindset can determine the world we encounter and the possibilities we comprehend. Achieving power and influence and achieving impact in times of change requires us all to make assumptions and to make those assumptions explicit and well-defined. It requires us all to understand that growth comes from learning and that growth comes from stubbing our toe and that growth comes from trying. And that means learning as we go. We're often taught in business that all we have to do is read something. And there's a lot to go out and read on LinkedIn. But the challenge is in the doing and putting what you're reading into action, testing, challenging, and refining. How do you do that? That's the power of mindset that underpins all of this. A fixed mindset assumes that our character, intelligence, creative ability, are static states given which we cannot change. A growth mindset, on the other hand, thrives on the challenge and sees failure not as evidence of being stupid, but as a heartening springboard for growth. We all say these things, maybe. Hey, we want to grow, we want to learn, I'm adapting, I like to change. But in a time like we're in the shift that's happening in the economy, the challenges we have with complexity, the need to simplify, the need to prioritize, it can get overwhelming. Are you viewing those challenges of doing that type of quote unquote hard work as an opportunity for growth? That's the essence of a growth mindset. And sometimes it means getting uncomfortable. So let's take a look at some of the aspects. From a skills perspective, fixed mindset says you're born with skills. Growth mindset says it comes from practicing and applying. Challenges, why do challenges exist? Well, we should avoid challenges. We don't want to put ourselves out there because the more we challenge ourselves, the more we'll get attacked or the more we'll get singled out. Versus growth mindset, challenges are an opportunity to grow. And challenges is where we put ourselves out so that we can grow. What about effort? A growth mindset would say that effort is how we get to mastery. The way we put in effort and where we spend our time becomes our path forward, versus a fixed mindset that says effort is work, effort sucks, effort is too hard, and effort is inconvenient, or effort is something that's corrective. What about feedback? What if it's feedback you don't want to hear? Is it useful? Is it something to learn from, like the growth mindset side? Or is it something to get defensive about and justify and take it personally? Setbacks. Why do setbacks happen? To blame others or to use as a wake-up call? Why does that matter? Why does that matter? Why does any of this matter around mindset? Well, if you think about this, the growth and the fixed mindset can show up in different ways as an orchestrator. When you think about the ecosystem that you're operating within, a growth mindset says, hey, this ecosystem can benefit from having more participation, versus a fixed mindset says, no, our business ecosystem, it's static. We can't change anything. What about building skills? A growth mindset says individual and organizational capabilities can be cultivated. Whereas a fixed mindset says, well, they're set. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. It is what it is. We have to work around all that. What about relationships? By working together, we can create more value if we work individually than if we work individually. Versus fixed mindset, if you win, I lose. Relationships are transactional. It's about, this idea of fixing or correcting or being better. So it matters at all levels. At the level we can't control, which is maybe this business ecosystem, but we can sure influence if we have a growth mindset. The area of developing skills in others, we can't necessarily make people do things, but we can influence and create an environment where they do adapt. In relationships as well. The good news is mindsets are malleable. We can change these. I don't know about you, but I've had to really work on my mindset. It's an important part of our personality, but it's not necessarily something that you're stuck with. I've actually developed and worked on developing my reaction to volatile environments and overly complex situations and a ton of ambiguity. There's so much ambiguity in what I personally do. It can really mess with my head. But mindset says we can react in different ways. We can think and react in different ways with a growth mindset. The future belongs to those who can adopt and adapt. And the future is growth mindset. Those with a fixed mindset will likely be stressed out, overwhelmed, hard to create. They'll avoid failure. They'll isolate and that's not going to lead to growth. So I really want you to think about this. What type of mindset do you have? And think about the toughest situation you're encountering. What's frustrating you the most? And how entrenched are you in your thinking? Because that thinking will influence how you orchestrate, and it affects how you talk. For example, if you show up and you're like, hey, I'm good at this or I'm not, you know, that's going to sound negative. But if you're able to say, hey, I'm frustrated by this, but let's persevere, or look, if you succeed, I'm inspired. Or on the right, I don't want to be challenged. Leave me alone. I don't have time for this. Versus on the left, when I fail, I learn. I want to challenge myself. Look at the difference in tone and how positive the left can be versus the right, which feels bogged down and heavy and stagnant. And also very self-centered, to be honest with you. The right shows up as being selfish almost, whereas the left is focused on making the impact and figuring it out as we go. No, let me ask you this. Who would you rather work with on your team? If you had a team of 5 or 7 people, who would you want to work with? What would they look like? People on the right or people on the left? How would you answer that? Now, how are you showing up? The good thing is that mindset is a choice. It's choices in the moment, choices in the situations, choices along the way. And you can choose to be positive and growth mindset, or you can choose to be negative and fixed. It's really that simple. But it's hard to execute that, I know, especially if you're stressed out. I get it. But that's really important to think about and develop techniques and approaches. And there's a lot out there on growth mindset. I did not necessarily want to give you everything on growth mindset. You can read the book. You can also see a lot out there on the web. I think there's even a LinkedIn learning course. I just wanted to put it in here as a quick module to say, look, as you're driving orchestration and as you're trying to do something different, you will need to be in tune with your mindset and you will have to make choices. The more you push orchestration, the more people will give you feedback, and they might not like what you're doing. It really requires a lot of resiliency to orchestrate. And that's a critical skill that you'll have to learn. And if you have a fixed mindset, you're going to end up arguing with people. You're going to end up isolating. You're going to end up lashing out. And that's not good. If you have a growth mindset, you're going to ask a lot of questions. You're going to be curious. You're going to learn how to adapt to setbacks. You're going to stay focused because you'll have a growth mindset on what really matters. You're also going to be identifying new opportunities for growth and new ways to pave a path forward. And you'll be somebody that others want to be around because you're helping them be successful and you're helping them achieve. So these are the lessons, insights from lesson 2. We'll see you in lesson 3. Take care.